What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. That's HAWGsports.com. Today on the show, we're going to talk a lot about Arkansas recruiting, some of the things that have been going on lately in recruiting. Although it has been a dead period, there's also some other things to talk about with Razorback sports, and we'll get all into that. Keith Grayson is also going to join us, all that and more, on Hog Sports Live as we look past what has been just a crappy month. Before we get started, obviously, we don't ever talk politics on this show. This is a sports show, but given just the weight of everything, I would be remiss if I did not mention just the tragic events with George Floyd and his death. And I'm usually a person to say, let the court system play out, but I mean, I think what we all saw was just, I think, disgusting. And there are protests, some of it's violent, so stay safe out there, people. Crazy times we're living in right now, and my thoughts are certainly out with George Floyd and his parents and his family. Coronavirus, I mean, we're starting to open things up again, and just a lot of chaos out there. And I mean, chaos isn't really even the right word. I mean, it all comes down to just being decent to each other, and that's what it always has. So anyway, with the coronavirus, we are really into this. We're starting to open up slowly, and that's been good. I mean, I went to 2 restaurants over the weekend, supported a couple of local businesses. It was nice to finally get out a little bit and see some things. Went to Woodstone in Fayetteville, went to Sassy's Red House, both kind of during the afternoon, went and rode bikes. It was nice with the family. The one good thing, I guess, that we saw in May was the shuttle launch. I mean, I thought that was really cool to finally send. I mean, it's been, what, like 9 years since we shot somebody into space on U.S. soil, and did it with a private company, SpaceX. I thought it was really cool. As I mentioned, Keith Grayson is going to join us here in a little bit, and we're going to get into some of the recruiting information. Aaron Outley, tight end from Little Rock Parkview, just announced his top 10 6'4", 246-pounder. Steve Wiltfong has a crystal ball into him to Florida State, by the way. One of his teammates is already committed to Arkansas, obviously. But he's down to Arkansas, Florida State, Oregon, LSU, Penn State, Texas A&M, Michigan, Michigan State, Virginia Tech, and Georgia Tech. That's his top 10. I think a lot of people would maybe say early on Florida State and Arkansas may be the teams to beat there. Jaden Wilson has announced his decision date. Let's see, he's deciding tomorrow between Cal, Utah, Arkansas, UCLA, Louisville, and Illinois. It's a good-looking wide receiver. 6'3", 172 pounds, from DeSoto, Texas. Right now, the crystal balls are generally in Arkansas's favor. He's not the only wide receiver that'll be deciding in the next 7 days, I guess. Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders, 6'2", 210 pounds, is deciding on Saturday, which is his birthday. That's June the 8th. So Raheem Sanders will be deciding on Saturday. Right now, it's kind of the same thing. Arkansas could end up with a couple of wide receiver commitments. The crystal balls favor Arkansas. 6'2", 210 pounds, out of Rockledge, Florida. The number 396 overall prospect in the country, 26 athlete, 65 in Florida. Jaden Wilson is number 845 nationally. So a couple of wide receivers could be jumping on board with Arkansas pretty soon. A couple of guys to watch anyway. Danny's got an article on Cade Klubnik, 2022 quarterback out of Austin, Texas. It's a VIP article, but it's a good write-up by Danny. Danny's got a lot of really good recent articles here that he's put out, including this one on Rakeem Boyd and Traylon Smith. Danny spoke to their trainer who's out of Houston, Justin Allen out of All In Sports, EN Sport, I think All In Sports, maybe that's what it is, out of Houston, and just kind of broke down what those guys have been doing in the offseason. So there are players out there who have been, working with personal trainers. I know we talked to Jalen Catalon. He's also worked with a personal trainer, and we've seen some other players doing that too. I think Malik Hornsby has been doing stuff as well. So there are players out there who have been working with personal trainers and have also had access to weight rooms. But it'll be interesting to see when everybody reports back, and they should start trickling in here in the next few days back into Fayetteville, into their apartments and whatnot. I think Sam Pittman said about 20% of the players stayed in Fayetteville. So they should start trickling back in. I know they lock everything down and sanitize Thursday and Friday, I believe. And then June 8th, the same day as Raheem Sanders is announcing, the players can resume voluntary workouts. And that doesn't limit them from also getting together and doing stuff, which I think this is a big moment. The teams that really take advantage and get together and go over the things, hold their own OTA type stuff, maybe in a more limited capacity. Maybe you just have 11 at a time. Who knows? But the players that do that kind of stuff, I think is going to make a big difference in this coming season. The players that get a jump on it. There has been talk also about starting an OTA type of thing with the players a couple of weeks before the start of fall camp. So you'd maybe do 2 weeks of OTA type stuff, which is just a light kind of a training camp, light deal. Give them a week off and then start fall camp. That's what I think makes a lot of sense. You don't want to overwhelm them, though. You don't want to do some grueling practices 2 weeks before and then pick up and start fall camp, and then you just kind of burn them out. They already get burned out a little bit towards the end, start aching for a game. You just get tired of hitting the same guy next to you. The defense starts knowing everything that the offense is doing because they're going against it every day. So Arkansas has Landon Rogers. We spoke about him just a minute ago. I think I did. But he's Aaron Outley's teammate at Little Rock Parkview. But he's committed in the class of 2021. They've also made it pretty clear, or it's been made clear, I guess, through Danny West. It's obvious anyway that Arkansas is pursuing other quarterbacks. And Lucas Coley is one, 6'1", 203. He was actually on Friday Night Tykes when he was younger. But 6'1", 203, this guy's really good mobile quarterback. He looked like he was ready to jump on board with an Arkansas commitment a few weeks ago. Clemson came into the picture. It's kind of like a, hold off. Clemson since gotten a commitment from a quarterback. Virginia Tech offered in the meantime. And it's looking kind of like Arkansas, Houston, Virginia Tech, Washington State right now for Lucas Coley. So obviously this is a guy to watch for the Razorbacks. But Arkansas is doing a virtual visit with him. He talks a lot about that, goes in depth with it with Danny West, everything going on. Also, Danny has a story on Demari Alston, running back out of Atlanta, Woodward Academy in Georgia. 2022 running back, 5'11", 200 pounds. He just talks a lot about his relationship with Jimmy Smith and has a teammate, Ja'Cory Turner, who signed with Arkansas last year, former teammate. So there's some connections that Arkansas has there, and obviously Arkansas has made a big push in Georgia, and Jimmy Smith is from there, or I guess I should say he coached there on the high school level for a long time, and I believe at Georgia State also. And, yeah, I mean, he's the running backs coach, so you would expect them to target some running backs in Georgia. Georgia produces really good running backs. They always have. A guy that I really like, though, we've talked about, and there's a lot of crystal balls. There's 9 crystal ball predictions. I believe 8 of them have him going to Arkansas right now, and that's A.J. Green out of Tulsa Union. Just really electric. We've talked about him a lot on the show. 10'3", 800 meters guy. I like him a lot. He's my favorite back that Arkansas has been reciprocating interest with. 111 ranked player in the country. Some schools recruiting him as a cornerback. I think if you can do what he can do with the ball under your arm, it makes sense to have him at running back. I've got a story. This is a free one just on Arkansas's missed opportunity to undersell and over-deliver. Arkansas has always had this, and, we've said stuff like this. The pandemic has hurt Arkansas in recruiting, and it has. And it's probably hurt Arkansas more than a lot of other schools that are maybe closer to their talent base. We talked about that last time, about that really being Arkansas's only negative. They're not right by a bunch of talented players. But for Arkansas being a new coaching staff, Pittman was brought to Arkansas because of his interpersonal skills, his ability to build bonds and relationships. And that's something that Arkansas is missing out on in that aspect, but also just the city of Fayetteville, the facilities we've talked about. All of those things are things that people are missing out on at Arkansas on these visits. And these virtual tours with like Lucas, Coley and stuff are great, but it's just not the same. Arkansas has always had that ability to flip you a little bit. The undersell, over-deliver aspect of things. I mean, U.S. News and World Report annually, every year lately, has had Arkansas amongst its best places to live. Right now, in 2019, Arkansas, for the past year, I should say, Arkansas was number 4 in the country in best places to live. Number 4. Let me break that down because there's all kinds of different things that are taken into account. It's number 12 in terms of quality of life, which, if that's not the most important thing, I don't know what would be. But in quality of life, Arkansas is number 12. Number 12. And I think number 20 in safest places to live, Fayetteville, Arkansas. So that's an annual thing. And that's something that I think a lot of people hear, Arkansas is this, it's backwards or stuff, and so they go in there kind of thinking that. And plus they fly in. I've mentioned this, I know, but you fly in and you just, you're going over chicken houses and stuff. And, you're seeing all this farm life and you're just kind of like, what have I done? I've used an official visit on this. And then, you drive past possibly a bunch of dead skunks. I've definitely seen a lot of dead skunks on my way. And then you get into Fayetteville and it's really eye-opening, I think. And so you miss on that. And hopefully everything will get pushed back a little bit, even though there are more commitments right now than there have been. Okay. Eric Musselman, another good story, I thought, getting settled in Fayetteville. This was one by Pete Roulier, just about how it takes about a year to get settled. Another good story to check out. All right. I told Keith Grayson we're going to get to him in just a minute. I want to remind everybody to go ahead and get your questions in also. And before we bring Keith in, I got to tell everybody there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. Of course, we're always on Facebook Live, always on YouTube. Be sure to follow the page on Facebook Live. Subscribe if you haven't done so already on YouTube. Also available on Apple Podcast. Throw us a 5-star review if you like the content, and available Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. So be sure to check us out right now. HawgSports is just $1 also for your first month. So for those who don't know Keith kind of a jack of all trades, funny guy. He's a high school football coach. He's in real estate. Does just about everything. Got his own podcast, and just an overall interesting Razorback fan. Brings a unique perspective.
What's up, man?
Hey, Keith. How you doing, man?
I'm above ground, so I'm doing all right. I don't know if we're going to make it the rest of 2020. Can you put out like a poll? I know you like those Twitter polls or the polls on HawgSports. Will we live past this year? This has been the worst year.
This has been the worst year I think I've ever seen.
Ever.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about the tragic events in Minnesota, stuff going on all around not only the country, the world, coronavirus. Like the only good thing that happened last month, aside from maybe some eye-opening things for people, but the only good thing that happened last month was a shuttle launch. That's it.
Space isn't real, though, so I'm not into that.
You're a flat earther?
I'm a 3-year letterman.
What does that mean?
Oh, you don't know that Georgia fan? That's he's the best follower on Twitter ever, where he's a youth football coach. I'm basically kind of that guy a little bit, but because I do coach freshman football. And I like freshman football more because it's like a transitional period, coming from middle school to freshman. And that year sucked for me. That's where everything changed for me. So if I can be the dude that I needed at that time, then that's why I'm there. So, and then I get to football a little bit. So, but no, the 3-year letterman is a satirical Twitter follow that's a Georgia fan, and He's hilarious. But he talks about youth football and financing water beds and how space isn't real.
I'll check him out. So how's your podcast going?
Well, the first one was pretty good. I think we were nervous, and then the second episode sucked, and then I just kind of gave up on it for the time being.
After you put out something for people to lick my head?
Yeah, it went exactly how – that's kind of my MO too, is I start things and then I don't typically finish them. So I called that before it happened. But no, it's on there. I just made a payment for it, so I'm definitely going to continue it here shortly. I'm going to probably have the streaker on. I like to have fun with you, Trey. I don't think anybody's really going to lick your head. I didn't take into account the COVID aspect of the –
I was about to say – spreading COVID by head licking, and also I would think you would probably be liable, for the pummeling that the person would get for licking my head after the fact. Would you be responsible for?
I got some courtroom money, so I'm good. I can be sued a couple times and still pay rent.
Hey Keith, are you going to go to a football game this year? Don't you usually come up? So Keith lives in Phoenix. Don't you usually come in for at least one Razorback game, or have you kind of stopped doing that the last couple of years during the
No.
2-10s?
I'd like to. I really had this Notre Dame game scheduled. That was a road game,
right?
And I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah,
the problem is it kind of overlaps the high school season, but we never make the playoffs anyway where I'm at, and so I'll be free after Halloween. But so I just bought a camper last week, like a trailer, like a 24-foot trailer or whatever it is. So I'm hauling that down. I leave Thursday to come back to Arkansas for like 10 days. And talking to Tulsa Hog, the guy that runs the Catfish Hole visits and stuff, about joining I'm gonna join the Road Hogs with all those old guys.
There you go. Yeah, you're getting up there.
I know, man. My AARP card's coming in the mail.
I used to go out to the Roadhog Park all the time.
What do they call the deck?
The deck. Yeah, that's Dottie's. Dottie's a legendary poster. That's actually his wife's name, but he's always gone under Dottie. But, they have the deck out there. But we used to go out there all the time. I need to get back out there again.
Well, I'm gonna be out there.
Yeah, you'll be out there, so
I'm getting like a spot reserved and everything.
I gotta go see Dottie again. I hadn't seen him in a while.
But it's mainly I'd like to be able to get out for baseball next year and all that stuff. I mean, that's really so the answer is yes. The goal is to hopefully be freed up enough with work and my hobby of coaching, or I guess it's probably reversed sometimes. Usually my real estate stuff is a hobby and my coaching is a full-time job. But I'd like to get out there and get to a game.
So what's your fan perspective right now, Keith, of the phases of things opening back up for sports in particular? Do you think this is the right move? And if you lived in Fayetteville, would you be more apt to go to a game? You have a ticket. It's a free ticket. You're in Fayetteville. There's a game at 2:30. It's on CBS, so that's a super hypothetical. Do what?
If you drink enough bourbon before the game, you can't get COVID anyway. So that's probably how it is.
Do not spread that. Keith Grayson's not a medical doctor.
You said that on The Buzz.
I never said that.
You said that.
No.
Alcohol kills it. No, but for real, I'm not. I think I've gone with. I think you may be in the same boat as me. So I think we look at this thing a little similarly, where initially I was like, everybody stay home, stop, what are you doing? Like
I think that was the appropriate response.
And then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. We have 40 million people out of work. Like, we need to roll the dice a little bit. So in Arizona's off on its own. I mean, here, like, we start football practice June 15th, and I don't know what kind of regulations there are going to be with it, and I'm going to adhere to everything, but I mean, we're going to be lifting weights and on the field doing 7-on-7 work in 2 weeks, and then the season starts on time. So, and there hasn't been any restrictions, but I mean, how are you supposed to approach it as a fan? They're going to check your temperature, and it's going to be 95 degrees before a game, and there's no way to tell if you have it or not. I don't know what the cases look like. That's the one thing that I had a question for you is, have you heard of any college athletes? They're doing all these training. The college athletes have been in groups the entire time. This has gone down. I mean,
I haven't heard of anybody coming down with it. No, Hunter Yurachek said one of our student athletes will come down with coronavirus. It's going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable. I don't think the whole point of this is like reopening because we don't think anybody else is going to get the coronavirus. You have to start moving forward and not overwhelm the medical community. I think that's the main thing. But I don't know anybody that has it. I think somebody on our message board mentioned they had it. Aside from the person I sat to next to for 6 hours on, I believe that was March 11th, who had coronavirus. And I got tested for antibodies. I came back negative. But that's the only person I've known that's had coronavirus personally.
Did they have to shove that stick to your brain on the test?
Do what?
On that test or on the
no. They took blood. It's a blood draw to see if I had antibodies. I didn't do the COVID test. I just stayed home after I found out like 10 days later, and I stayed home the next 4 days. Yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't change. It wouldn't change how I attend a game. I mean, I definitely, if somebody gets too close to me in a gas station or something, I start hacking up along kind of in their direction just to tell them to back off a little bit. This is perfect for me because I'm socially awkward anyway. I want to be a hermit, stay inside, and it hasn't really impacted me. If anything, the crazy thing about all this is my business has been growing exponentially just because of all these people that want to get out of California, and we're a neighboring state from them, and we're seeing all these investors come in, and that's why I have to leave, after this show directly to something that I, sold on the internet, sight unseen, cash, closing in 5 days. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, with everything going on in the world, there's still, it's still kind of moving quickly out here. Yeah. So it's just a differing thing, but I'm excited to get back because, I haven't been back to Arkansas in probably 2 years. The last football game I went to the Arkansas LSU baseball series, and just made it to Fayetteville. But my dad lives in Heber Springs, so I'm going to get down and fish the Little Red, hang out on Greer's a little bit. My girlfriend has never been to the South, and so going.
Where's your girlfriend from?
She was born in San Diego and grew up in Portland. Mm-hmm. So, in the furthest south she's been is Dallas once for Thanksgiving last year when I took her. So we're doing a road trip and that, and gonna go to Memphis and pal around Beale Street, and then we'll be up in Fayetteville for 3 or 4 days too, maybe 3 days.
Gotcha.
Hit Eureka, come by your house.
I got to get back to Eureka. Eureka Springs is a hidden gem. Really is. It's so weird. It feels like you're so far away I'm like 45 minutes away from Eureka Springs, but it feels like I'm in 5 states over or something.
It's all relative. Just to get out and explore a little bit because we've been cooped up, and missing out on our vacation. We're supposed to go to Ireland for 8 days or something over 4th of July. So that got kaput. They still got the bars locked down, and pubs in Ireland are still shut down until August. That's how you know it's serious.
We're trying to, exactly. We're trying to reschedule. We were supposed to go on vacation last week. I was supposed to be on vacation. We were going to Florida. But we're trying to reschedule for early July, I guess. I got to sandwich it in there sometime between SEC Media Days and early July, but I don't even know if we'll have SEC Media Days. It might just be virtual. Who knows? All right, man. Yeah. You got anything else you want to chime in on?
I'm not going to make a political statement. All I have to say, I hate all politicians. Let's just be frank. And I don't want to. I know you have to toe the company line and stuff for the message board and the website and keep it sports related. All I'm asking people to do is I kind of go to sleep at night asking myself, can I be better? And the answer is always yes. It's never no. So you can do better every day and try to help as many people as possible before you leave this planet. And that's what everything's about. So regardless of your lookout on your view of what's happening, just be mindful on a daily basis to help a human, regardless of what they look like or their social class, on a daily basis. So that's it. If you can, I'll just implore people to do that.
I think.
Later, man.
I appreciate you, Keith.
Yeah.
It's Keith Grayson joining us. I think most people can get on board with that concept and want to. And as I was saying, it just comes down to being decent to each other, doesn't it? All right, everybody, I want to get to your questions now. Kind of a weird show given the weight of everything going around. I think my energy certainly isn't what it usually is. Nathan Espinoza says, Nathan, you're a regular. I appreciate you being on here and asking the questions that you ask. Nathan Espinoza says, hey, Trey, what position group do you think makes the most improvement this year? Thank you. On offense, I would hope, man, I think everywhere is going to make a little bit of an improvement. But, I mean, tight end might not because you did lose a lot last year, although Hudson Henry is, you know, maybe in terms of quantity, tight end could take a step back because there's not as many ready to go. But I might say quarterback. I want to say offensive line because of the Sam Pittman, Brad Davis impact, but I think that quarterback will make the biggest improvement. And I wish I had this pulled up. Felipe Franks last 7 games. There was a tweet on it, and I can't remember who said it, but they just broke down Franks' last 7 games and how good he's been. So we can take a look at those. I wish I had the whole thing, but I don't want to sit here and do a search while I'm on air. And we'll talk about it in a minute. But I'm going to say quarterback on offense. And on defense, I would probably have to go with, I think the secondary has a real chance to be improved even though they lost Cameron Curl. I don't know that linebacker is going to be a step forward after losing Dijon Harris. The numbers are still in question. The defensive line, I think, even though they lose McTelvin Agim, you might say that's maybe kind of a wash because I do think that Jonathan Marshall maybe should have been a starter last year for him. We've heard some good things about Julius Coates. Mateo Soli's another year older. Eric Gregory, Zach Williams, all of those guys. You get Dorian Gerald back, and you didn't have him almost all of last year except for a half of a game. Defensive line and secondary, I might tie them. Andrew Molden says, Trey, what do you think will be the start at quarterback position this year for the Hogs? I think it'll definitely be Felipe Franks. I do think that there could be packages in there for KJ Jefferson because he is such a physical runner. So here's Felipe's last 7 games. He went 12 of 17 for 174 yards, 1 touchdown and interception against Kentucky. This is the game that he was hurt. 174 yards passing, 23 yards rushing. Against UT Martin, he was 25 of 27, which is 92.6%, 2 touchdowns, 270 yards passing, 37 yards rushing. Against Miami, he was 17 of 27, 254, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 8 rushing yards, and this was a 24-20 win over Miami. And then you have to go back to 2018 for his next 4 games. Against Florida State, so it would have been the bowl game, they won 41-14. He was 16 of 26 for 254 yards, 3 touchdowns, and had 46 rushing yards. Against Idaho, he was 19 of 27 for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 21 rushing yards. Against South Carolina, he was 15 of 21 for 161 yards, a touchdown, and 36 rushing yards. That's his last 6 games anyway. I don't know why they said 7 because his game against Missouri wasn't that good. He was 9 of 22 for 84 yards. So since that Missouri game, Felipe Franks has played pretty well. Oh, wait. Missed the bowl game. Okay, so sorry. Florida State was a rivalry game. Never mind. They missed the bowl game. So here's the other bowl game. Michigan, they won 41-15 in the bowl game over Michigan. 13 of 23 for 173 yards and 74 rushing yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 passing, 1 rushing. So that's Felipe Franks' last 7 games. Not bad. I do think there'll be an upgrade at quarterback. Philip Mooten says, I pray we get Outley. I've got a crystal ball picked for him. Steve Wiltfong has it to Florida State. You know, he has a connection with Mike Norvell, who was at Memphis before. So there's that continued relationship. You know, he grew up watching Florida State, liking Florida State. Landon Rogers is committed to Arkansas. I think Arkansas probably leads for James Joyner in the 2022 class, excuse me. So maybe those are things that could help. Jared Eubanks says, how big do you think our O-line will be this year? So I think Myron Cunningham he's over 300. He could be at about 310. Left guard will probably be, if it's Bo Limmer, he's probably right about 300, so he's probably around 305 pounds. If it's Marcus Henderson, he might end up being a little bit bigger than that. So Ty Clary, probably 295-ish is what I would expect him to maybe be at, maybe 300. Right guard, I would expect Ricky Stromberg to be around 310 by the time season starts, maybe bigger than that. He's gained a lot. He's over 300 now, well over 300 now. And then at right tackle, Noah Gatlin, probably in the 315 range. So definitely averaging well over 300 pounds, and maybe everybody above 300 pounds this year, whereas last year you were 285, 305, 285, 276, and 6'9", 300. And that's, again, assuming that Noah Gatlin beats out Dalton Wagner. That's not a given, but I do think that that's how it'll play out. I think Wagner will be your next tackle in, your third tackle. And maybe a situation where you always play him at right tackle and you move Noah Gatlin to left tackle if you have to. Jason Daugherty says, when do you think Joe will announce? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the period for it to announce was June 3rd, but now it's been pushed back, so there's just too much unknown. I think the uncertainty lends in favor of Arkansas getting him back. The uncertainty of everything right now, but I don't have an answer for it. For when. I know Brooks and Fouché have been working with a personal trainer in Louisiana too, looking good from the video footage I've seen, Trey. Yes. You know, I think Fouché, a lot of people, we look at athletes and we say, that guy's not doing this, or that guy's not physical, or he's not hustling. But I don't remember anywhere it being reported last year that Joe Fouché had a shoulder injury that he played with all season. You know, so that could be something that maybe held him back a little bit, and we see a guy take a step forward. In the same hand, there will be other guys that play with shoulder injuries and things you don't know about this season. Jared Eubanks says, hey, Trey, Traylon Burks did a live Instagram thing, and I asked him if he likes Coach Pittman, and he was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, Mike Woods had a lot of really good things to say. Man, that might have been a month ago or more, maybe 2 months ago. But he had a lot of really good things to say also about Coach Pittman and just the relationship. And that's what I've always said about Pittman is, you know, even back to his days when he was at Arkansas and even after he left, just that you feel like you know him after a short amount of time. I mean, like 5 minutes. I remember there was this interview I saw of him with this reporter. I believe it was at a football conference or something, but it's off air and they're getting ready. And Pittman's like interviewing the guy. Where are you from? You know, like getting to know the reporter before they start on air. He's got his hand on his shoulder, you know. It's just the kind of guy he is. And I think that's something, you know, when we see coaches get hired, you usually see a big contrast in the last coach and the new coach. And that's something I think that Morris was criticized for, is not necessarily building strong bonds and relationships with his players. At least that's what I have gathered from talking to players and talking to other people around the program, is that something that was lacking. So you bring in Pittman, who is the total opposite of that. Brad Smith says, good job, Trey, Danny, and Pete. Appreciate you, Brad. Jared Eubanks says, hey, let me just ask that. Sorry. Josh Grubb says, what happened to running back Spivey? I don't hear anything about him. He's still on the team. He started playing a little bit last year, but didn't play a whole lot, obviously. I think saw action in maybe 4 games. I think 3 games. Philip Mooten says, Keith is hilarious. Yes, one of the reasons we have him on here. Kevin Venable says, hey, Trey Biddy, does the lack of depth at tight end favor Arkansas in the Parkview player's decision? It's a good point, and you would hope that it would. Arkansas has 2 tight ends coming in the 2020 class, obviously. But next in 2021, they will only have 3 scholarship tight ends, not including anybody that they bring in. So Philip Mooten says, well said, Keith. Nathan Espinoza says, thanks for all you do. Keep us updated. Appreciate your hard work. Tony Ball says, is Franks on campus yet, and who's going to be number 2? Bumper shines on D this year. Franks is on campus. He has stayed on campus, not on campus, but stayed in Fayetteville throughout the coronavirus pandemic. He has gotten together with other wide receivers on the team and, gone through throwing drills and stuff like that. I don't know if KJ is on campus or not, but I would expect KJ to probably be your number 2 quarterback. He is a very physical runner, and I think Malik Hornsby is also intriguing just for his speed. I envision one day if things go the way that they're going with AJ Green, one of the fastest players in the country, the verified 10.38, 100 meters, always runs in the 10.5 or better range. So if you're able to get him and Malik Hornsby, that's a guy. Hornsby was probably, his 4x100 meter relay team might have broken the national record this year. They might have broken it. So that's 2 guys in your backfield with a lot of speed. That's intriguing, I've got to say, behind what you'd hope to be eventually a better, bigger offensive line to block for him. But there may be some packages for Malik Hornsby. Maybe he plays in 4 games. I think you'll see some packages for KJ Jefferson also. Philip Mooten says, do you think Coylan steps up this year? Pete Roulier had an article on Coylan Jackson. It's possible he's another big-handed wide receiver. I thought he showed a lot of promise as a freshman. And he's kind of been there, but just kind of hasn't broken through yet. It's possible. They did lose some wide receivers. Deion Stewart, who didn't play last year, isn't back. Jordan Jones, who didn't play last year, isn't back. Who else did they lose? TQ Jackson. That was a guy that showed some promise, I think, who isn't back. Trey, do you think they will allow some version of spring football, and will there be media access to it? I don't know if there will be media access or not. I don't know if there will or not. But I would expect them to do something. Not spring football. I don't think you can put these guys in pads and helmets and go out there and have practices like that and then start fall camp. You just get them really burned out, I think. So the whole goal of having camp is to, obviously you go through a grind period and then you bring their legs back and you get them ready for the season. You make sure everybody's nice and healthy for the season. That's kind of the structure of things. You don't want to overdo it. And but I think that you'll see them, get back to they may let them wear helmets or something, but I don't think you'll see full pads. I don't think you'll see it be like really grueling or anything. I think it'll be more of an instruction. Let's get our timing down. Let's work on everything that we have worked on to this point that we haven't been able to get out on the field together and discuss. But to go back to Felipe Franks also. Kendall Browse has not seen Felipe Franks throw a ball in person, only on video. He's not seen him throw a ball in person at Arkansas because you can't have a ball at these practices. Again, I want to mention everybody before we wrap it up here. Plenty of ways to watch and listen. If you haven't thrown us a thumbs up yet on YouTube or Facebook Live, do so if you like the content. It definitely helps our content get bumped up when people search for Arkansas Razorback material. Follow the page on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel on, follow the page on Facebook if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube and hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime we upload a new video. Also available on Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, we'd love to have a 5-star review from you. And available anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. HawgSports.com is just $1 right now for your first month. We had a lot of people take advantage of our 75% off promo, which is over now, but you can still sign up for $1 for your first month. If you like what you get and you decide to continue at regular price after that month, you will get CBS All Access absolutely free, which is a $99 annual value. So always got some good promos coming up, and we'll have another good one probably coming up some point this month. We'll probably do something to promote the site. And I want to thank everybody who's been subscribed with us for a long time. And those of you who just joined up also, certainly appreciate you and appreciate all you listening and joining in with your questions. Thanks to Keith Grayson also for joining us. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.